Welcome to Hippie TV News and Stuff for the week of June 29th. Brought to you by WorldwideHippies.com, Citizen Journalists Exchange, part of the Common Projects Network. I am Winston Smith. North Carolina, Republican State Senator Thom Goolsby is just another good old boy racist. Summer solstice, not just for druids anymore. Hippie consumer update. The penis report. The meme bandit says don't judge a cover by its face. Good cop, bad cop, our asshole of the week, and more. Top story. Brazil. Corporate media reported this week that Brazil's protests are slowing down.
Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
Actually, protests in Brazil grew to 1.8 million, with even more rallies despite a reversal in the bus fare increase that sparked the wave of unrest. Marches are being staged in over 150 cities across South America's largest country. Protests have spread to small and medium-sized cities also that had until then seen little mobilization. The unrest has exploded as Brazil hosts the Confederations Cup football tournament, considered to be a dress rehearsal for the World Cup in Brazil 1 year from now. People have expressed with current unrest raising concerns of the government, corrupt multinational corporations, and a few rich families. The giant has awoken was a popular slogan splashed on banners and relayed by protesters who have taken to the streets. Protest slowing down my ass.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message. Now, back to our show.
You know, people always ask me, Winston, what advice can you give a young person born today? My advice is always the same. Go back. You won't like it out here. Now a word from our new sponsor.
Tampax. Теперь без протечек.
I know some people are going to be ragging on me about that commercial. Well, this man ain't ragging and he ain't bragging. Always in the front and in between. Smiling face, big mustaches, and a racism.
Hi-ho, Synecdoche, the meme bandit rides again. Thank you for your kind words, Winston. I'm going to tell a story today. This is under the heading of Sam Elliott's take on slow governmental response. While walking down along the Mexican border the other morning, I saw a Muslim extremist fall in the Rio Grande. He was struggling to stay afloat because of all the guns and bombs he was carrying. Along with him was a Mexican who was also struggling to stay afloat because of the large bale of drugs he was strapped to his back. If they didn't get help, they'd surely drown, and being a responsible Texan and abiding by the law to help these poor unfortunates in distress, I informed the El Paso County Sheriff's Department and Homeland Security right away. It's now 4 p.m. and both of the unfortunates have drowned. Neither authority has responded. I'm starting to think maybe I wasted 2 stamps. I'll wait for the laughter to subside. For the record here, I'm not claiming that the meme skewer subject in this image, Sam Elliott, is to blame for that particular story. He's an icon who has, I think, kept his personal immigrational and demographic preferences to himself. It's a cheap laugh. I'd expect better from Sam Elliott if he was the author, and so I think he's not. But it is useful in one respect. In respect, it illustrates one of my favorite rhetorical fallacies. It's called petitio principii. That's the begging of the question. Like, if they was both so far away across the river, how'd you know they was a Mexican and an Arab? And how'd you know what they was carrying? And where in the hell did you find a mailbox out there anyway? Seriously, folks. There's some serious racism embedded in that joke, as there are in a lot of them. The important thing is to recognize that racism is not manifested in individual acts of bigotry and prejudice. It's not that consist merely in deeds. Images and narratives such as the one we've just talked about function to rationalize racism and make it acceptable, if only just for our passing amusement and entertainment. Prejudice and bigotry exist in all cultures, all races, all over the world. Assholery is a general, transnational, transcultural human condition, as our old pal Winston so assiduously points out elsewhere in this very program today. There are assholes absolutely every fucking where. But assholery is not racism, though they often unfortunately do seem to cohabitate. Racism per se consists in the political and social arrangements and agreements which accede to and do not disprove or reprove the expressions of bigotry and prejudice which are designed to diminish and dispel the validity of claims by the despised or inferiors to their own fair share of the social goods, which include respect and dignity. Minorities as groups, particularly despised groups, cannot be racists in a racist culture per se because they cannot and do not exercise power enough to deny the majority the social goods which the majority does possess the power to deny those whom they regard as their inferiors. Racism is about the power to exclude, to deny, to diminish. Now, as Louis C.K. says, I'm a white male, call me any name you want. You can't really hurt my feelings. But the narrative exemplifies the harmless ways in which racism legitimizes itself. It's so ubiquitous, you gotta laugh, but not with it. Hippies, laugh at it. Back to you and Hippie Central, Mayor Smith.
To me, man. Here in world news, Russia makes law giving jail terms for religious crimes. Good. Let's start arresting the Pope. He could be first. And I hear the U.S. is willing to trade Pat Robertson for Snowden as an even deal. Syria has a lot of bad stuff going on. Has been and will be. Singapore haze hits its high from the Indonesia fires. But who cares? Iraq is falling apart. Gee, I didn't see that one coming. Afghan is still generating billions for the one percenters. Well, that's good news. Israel's still an apartheid state. No change there. Fukushima is leaking even more radiation this week.
No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't.
It's too. Hippie consumer alert. Large corporate public relations push for the Rascals, the Monkeys, and the Zombies reuniting and touring this summer. Sounds good, huh? Well, if you want to shell out $200 to see any of these bands, at least know what you're buying. The Zombies. How does a group that split up 40 years ago work together? They don't. Only 2 members from the original group are playing, and they don't even talk to each other.
We'd like to dedicate this song to people everywhere. For people got to be free. Come on.
The Rascals, again, don't look for many original members. These guys only put out 2 albums and lost the right to even use the name 10 years ago. So you may not see any original members. It's up to the promoters.
Here we come, walk down the street.
And then there's the Monkeys. They were mocked as a band manufactured for a TV show, which technically they were. Now the reunion tour is also manufactured 100%. Reunions have come often to the Monkeys, but seldom with guitarist Michael Nesbitt. But after promoters doubled the offer, Nez, as he likes to be called, is on board for this swing. Davy Jones, the British-born lead singer, died of a heart attack last year. Continuous problems with any vocals and a genuine dislike for each other made practicing for the tour almost impossible. So the band won't play anything recorded after 1968. It's your money. In penis news this week, man had sex with unconscious woman. Nothing new there, but he says he raped the unconscious woman to save her life with his penis. Roger William Kelly admitted putting his penis inside an unconscious neighbor to, get this, to get her temperature up. Roger Williams Kelly explained that he had sex with his 29-year-old neighbor after finding her passed out on her front porch. Roger William Kelly has been arrested and has been charged with rape. In other penis news, bad trip, man. Man removes chunk of his penis in middle school after eating magic mushrooms. Last week, police found a naked 41-year-old man wailing in agony inside Yesani Middle School in Yesani, Michigan. During what had been a particularly bad magic mushroom trip, the man had ripped off parts of his own penis, reports the Lansing State Journal. Long strange trip it's been for the unidentified man who remains unidentified in the hospital. Reminds me of an old Croatian proverb. All mushrooms are edible, but some only once. Moral Monday protests. Protests have been growing in the North Carolina General Assembly, resulting in 700 arrests so far. These Moral Monday demonstrations have brought out thousands of people over the course of the last several weeks who are protesting North Carolina state policies on education, taxes, police misconduct, new restrictions on early voting and registration, unemployment insurance, health care, and again, there has been 700 arrests so far. A Republican state senator weighed in. No surprise there. He referred to Moral Monday as Moron Monday. Senator Thom Goolsby, Republican, published an op-ed in the Chatham Journal calling the protesters clowns, the loony left, and hippies. It's time for Good Cop, Bad Cop. Meet Officer Sean O'Brien. Sean O'Brien saw a child near Minor Street and River Road in Des Plaines while sitting in traffic off duty. The child was not accompanied by any adults. O'Brien saw the child head down the road towards the Des Plaines River. O'Brien saw the child throw a snowball into the river and fall in after it, becoming completely submerged. Officer O'Brien responded without thoughts for his own safety, entering the freezing water, locating the child, and bringing him to safety. Officer Sean O'Brien, good cop, good man. Now meet Officer Child Abuser, name withheld because Oregon State Police Lieutenant Kelly Collins illegally refuses to release his name. Officer Child Abuser didn't wait for backup, didn't use what should have been standard police training to physically subdue a naked, severely autistic 11-year-old child. No, he tased the autistic 11-year-old child, knocked her out. Oregon State Police Lieutenant Kelly Collins, boy toy officer, child abuser, bad cop, bad human being. Now, from the Latin words for sun and to stop, comes our word solstice. On a solstice, the sun does appear to pause in the sky when it reaches its northernmost point, which occurred at 1:04 a.m. Eastern Time on June 21st. Mainstream media marked and celebrated the solstice as they always do. Year after year, Stonehenge. Look at the hippies at Stonehenge. Fuck Stonehenge. Aren't you tired of it? Just a little sick of it? Word to corporate media. Boring. Among the most interesting rituals are those of the Native American tribes. Some scholars believe that the arrangement of stones built several hundred years ago by the Plain Indians on the top of Wyoming's Bighorn Mountains is a tribute to the summer solstice. The medicine wheel, with a diameter of 80 feet, aligns with the solstice sunrise and sunset. At the center is a donut-shaped pile of stones, a crim, connected to the rim of the outer circle by 28 spokes of stones. 6 more stone cairns are arranged around the circle, most large enough to hold a sitting human. Each orients a person to a certain place on the distant horizon that indicates where the sun rises or sets on the summer solstice. The structure is only reachable during the warm summer months as it was built atop of the mountain range at 9,600 feet. Also, between 70 and 150 of these wheels have been identified in South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, Alberta. It is believed that Bighorn Observatory is simply one part of a larger configuration of interrelated archaeological sites that represent 7,000 years of Native American culture. Another significant structure is located in the Chow Canyon, an arid valley in New Mexico. The Fahad Butte rises nearly 148 yards above the canyon floor and is also known to contain a solar marking site that records the equinoxes and solstices. Now that's interesting. Well, here it's time for our Asshole of the Week, and this week it goes to Sherwin Smith, Deputy Director for Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, for his claiming during a meeting with residents of Murray County, Tennessee, that their complaining about the water quality could be considered acts of terrorism. The gathering had sought to address complaints by residents that the area water was making their children sick. Smith then equated their water quality complaints with DHS-defined acts of terrorism. Hippie TV News and Stuff has a recording of Sherwin Smith. Give it a listen.
What I'm saying is, if you've got concerns about your drinking water, that's very important. We take that very seriously. But under federal regulation, if you make allegations against public water supply that are unfounded, then that can be considered under Homeland Security an act of terrorism, because you're trying to allege things.
And who would the you be in this case, Mr. Smith?
I'm just saying, I'm not.
Last I knew, threatening citizens to intimidate them is a crime. It's called assault. An assault is carried out by a threat of harm coupled with an apparent present ability to cause the harm. Sounds like assault to me. Sherwin Smith, Deputy Director of Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, jerk, douchebag, terror bully, and Hippie TV News and Stuff, asshole of the week. That's it for this week. Thanks again to the Mean Bandit. Please pass our news along on your Facebook pages and other places, and visit Worldwide Hippies every day. And you will see the doc and myself, Winston Smith, here next week.